Hello, welcome to DoubleVision Podcast. This is Jenelle with my co-host Joy, and wanted to let you know that we are re-recording this intro because about 10 minutes into recording, the video turned off, and we still want to keep what we had recorded though because it was fresh and what we wanted to communicate, and we wanted to add a few other little tidbits to the beginning of this episode though.
Yeah, so this is kind of our new iteration of what DoubleVision blog was. We obviously have blogged for years and we love that aspect. We both love writing, and we are at stages in our lives right now. We both have pretty busy careers and family commitments where I think sometimes just sitting down for a conversation versus going through lots of drafts of posts to get to putting something in perfect words. There's things right now that are coming up for both of us that don't necessarily fit into a blog post. They are more conversational and they are a little bit more just processing. And this is something that we're excited not just to do with each other, but with you as our listeners as well. Right. Okay. So we're doing this. Here we go. Oh my, I wonder if that's what we said as we were about to be born.
Here we
I guess
go.
we're doing this.
Yeah, we did.
And I shoved you out. I'm like,
You're
you
like,
go first.
Go first.
Come 4 minutes later.
And I was like, I'm hungry because you've been eating all this food. You were like 1.5 pounds heavier.
And I was like, you've been sitting on my head for 9 months.
Yeah,
this has been so
get
uncomfortable.
out.
Get out of here. And I'm going to come as a big surprise. And I'm going to be like, oh, I'm here.
Yes.
Surprise.
Yes. Then that's why they called you Joy. They were so joyful to have 2 instead of 1.
Yeah.
Welcome. This is the DoubleVision Podcast. We started our blog in 2011 and have been talking for many years about hosting some type of a podcast. And then last night, it was a Friday night, 10:30 at night, I get a phone call from Joy, and she asks if I can come to her house tomorrow morning, to her garage. That's where we are currently. To record a podcast about some recent travels. And so here we are.
Here we are. I'm Joy.
And I'm Jenelle. We are identical twin sisters who have been writing and talking about vision loss for quite a number of years. We were diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa at age 5 and have been slowly losing vision since then, and have shared about our experiences with family, friends, through our blog.
So let's dig in.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you were doing for your travels and what this experience was for you.
Okay. So again, this is Joy, and I have traveled in the past 2 weeks twice on multiple flights, multiple legs of flights for work. And I independently by myself. And typically I'm usually flying with my family, flying with Ben. We're going on vacation. And so I took this new role. I'm a boss lady now, I'm a director. And so I am, I'm not wanting to drag my husband, nor am I like, gosh, I have to have Ben. My husband's name is Ben every time I travel, even though there have been some moments recently as I'm traveling that I'm thinking, gosh, this would have been way easier with Ben. And yet I did it. I'm back. I'm here. I'm alive. I'm home. I feel good about that. And yet I'm still trying to process a lot of the things when you kind of go out into the world. I typically work virtually. And so typically I'm, behind a computer on a phone, and, yes, my vision loss does come up and it impacts, when things are not accessible on the computer. It impacts my life on a daily basis. But as I'm out there traveling, it's way more apparent when you're out in the world and you're trying to navigate a busy airport, and you're with strangers than it is day to day. So I think that's why the experience has hit me so hard. But then especially this trip, this was I literally left on a Wednesday and I came back on a Friday, and how it ended up really being the tool that I ended up using for this trip that ended up being such a unique experience. And that's my new Meta glasses.
Yes, tell us about the Meta glasses. I have a pair, although I feel like you have experimented with yours in more creative ways than I have. So I'm excited to hear more about this.
Okay, so yeah, Mother's Day, I got this gift from my husband and daughters, and it's these glasses. I'm wearing them, and they're transitional lenses, so they can be either sunglasses or they can just be like these black frames. And
They're cute. You get a lot of compliments.
I do
on
get a lot of
them.
compliments on it. Yeah, I feel kind of like, oh, like this like little secretary smarty pants person with these on. I don't know. But they're really cool because I can take like normally I used to never take photos or videos of people very often because by the time I like fumble with my phone, turn on voiceover, load photos, I don't know, I can't frame it, but now if I'm like at a beautiful scene, if I'm at the ocean or if I'm, walking and hiking, I can just be like, oh, I'm gonna like and everybody's saying, oh, that's beautiful. And even if I'm not really seeing what they're looking at, I can be like, click, click, and just pressing my little button to take photos. And then if I press it down for a couple seconds, then I'm taking videos. If I'm at a restaurant and I want to read the menu instead of, pulling out a magnifier, which I mean, honestly, these days magnifiers don't really even help me much anymore because I've lost so much vision recently. But I can just ask my glasses. I just say, hey, I won't say it out loud, META, or else she'll start talking to my ears right now. Read this menu, or do you see what are the salads on this menu? And for the most part, I mean, I have to say, Mark Zuckerberg, like, dude, you need to get these like more AI based. Like they're good, but they're not like the best. Like Meta is just sometimes dumb, would you say? Like just doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't have the level of quality that we're used to with, say, Siri or
ChatGPT.
exactly. Okay, well, jump in and tell us about what it was like using your Meta glasses going through the airport and some of the unique experiences you had with that.
Okay, so I had hooked up this thing called Be My Eyes. And if you are in the blind community, you may have used it before. They have, it's an app. And sometimes you can there's like an AI feature where it would give you, AI descriptions of things. But it also has this feature where it can call a volunteer. And basically, if you call this volunteer using Be My Eyes, and you can, dial it from your app on your phone, you can point your camera at different things. And let's say you're working on a recipe and for some reason the package, like it won't read it out loud using, AI or something for a variety of reasons. Or maybe you're trying to put together a table and you're like, where did that, screw go? Or how do I do this? Or just anything that you're wanting to borrow someone's eyes, Be My Eyes, you can basically call this volunteer. So there's a way then with your Meta glasses that you can hook this, that you can basically program it, or what's the word that I'm looking for? Not hook it up, but I basically connect it. Yeah. So I had it connected to my Meta glasses so that when I was at the airport, and you have to give it, permission in the app to like use your glasses. So that all I had to say was, hey, META, call Be My Eyes. And it would call a volunteer. And then the volunteer could actually see everything that I was seeing through my glasses, or not seeing through my glasses, I should say. So basically, then I have somebody that only I can hear through my glasses because it's my glasses that are talking to me. And I'm walking through an airport and there's like a live person on the other end literally telling me where to go.
Yeah. So you're just bringing this stranger essentially into your experience of navigating the airport. And
yeah,
what did you find in that experience? Like, what did you talk to multiple people? Was it helpful? Was it annoying? Was it confusing?
Okay. So, I mean, I used it one time, maybe like 2 months ago when I was flying with my husband in June, and I just wanted to test it, and I had like used it to help me get to a gate, like help me find gate 13 and help me find a seat. And that was cool. It was like a little snippet of it, but it was a little bit like, I don't know, it didn't feel that smooth though. But then this time it was really interesting because I needed to go from like, I think it was like C gate to N gate or something. I needed to go a really far distance and I needed to take a tram. And I had done this before, like with one of those airport
guides. Yeah. So
yeah.
For those who don't know, when you travel with any type of disability, you can request assistance and they'll typically bring a wheelchair and
really strongly encourage you to sit in it, whether you need a wheelchair or not. And some of them
You
can be
basically
really,
have to fight with them to
but
like
some of
not
them
get in
can
this
be-
wheelchair.
Yes, exactly. Some of them can be very helpful. Others need more training. I'll say that's my kind way of saying it. And so in the disability communities, you'll hear a lot of stories from people about both, helpful experiences and some really challenging experiences of working with these airport guides who oftentimes are not well trained and probably not compensated that well.
Yeah. So I needed to go a far distance again, and I didn't want to do it with this time. I really wanted to try it on my own. I wanted to try it with my glasses. This is something, probably in my 20s, even 30s, I could do, with a cane. I could see enough to read the signs, but in the recent 2 years of more vision loss, I cannot. I mean, without like plowing into people with my cane and really not really knowing where to go with the escalators and all the different places to navigate. And so basically I said, call my be my eyes. And there's like this nice young voice on the phone, or he sounded younger, and I just was asking. I said, I'm at this gate, and this is the gate I need to go to. Are there any signs around me that will help? And he's like, well, turn slightly to your left. And so he was like, yeah, it looks like you're going to go straight down to your left. And so I'm like, okay. So I'm like, have my cane. I'm pulling my rolling suitcase, moving along. And he's like, oh, you're going to take a sharp right down the next hallway. I'm like, okay, taking a sharp right. And then he's like, okay, now there's an escalator coming up on your left. Okay, probably like 7 o'clock. And then he's telling me, okay. So I'm getting up, then I'm feeling the graded surface with my cane. Like, okay, here comes the escalator.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm gripping the handle of the escalator and moving down. And, you have all the things going on around you too, still at the same time. There's people who there's somebody like, hey, I'm behind you if you need anything, which is sweet. I mean, honestly, sometimes you go through these experiences and you're like, wow, most people in the world are pretty helpful. Like, most people are kind and some overly some really helpful. So there's all, you have the person talking to you and so it's a little bit multisensory, like
it's a lot.
It's a lot.
And you're using your own skills. I mean, that's, for those who don't know, that stands for orientation and mobility training. And so Joy and I have both received some level of training around navigating with a cane and navigating escalators and what the most helpful techniques are.
Yeah. So he ends up like telling me, and I literally, I had to go down an escalator, then up an escalator. It was like windy, and he was just very seamlessly telling me where to go. And I'm assuming that, maybe a lot of people were getting out of my way, like as I'm going, like barreling through with my cane, because I was walking at a pretty swift pace.
Yeah. What do you imagine you looked like going through? Like, can people tell that these glasses are on your face? Or that that's
a really good
navigating.
So I didn't really think about that until I was passing this what I heard, I think, was a mom and her little kid, because the little kid said something and the mom was like, oh, well, she's using those glasses and they're telling her where to go. Because then I remembered, oh yeah, if I'm taking a video or photo, then there's something that's lighting up on my glasses. So now I was realizing, oh, because it was Be My Eyes was using my glasses and using it like a camera, it must have been lighting up, because then the kid's like, oh, that's so cool. So it was fun that, people were noticing, they're seeing me just kind of go through without any extra assistance. And I, he got me all the way, the voice in my glasses, which was a live volunteer, got me to the tram. And then from there, we hung up because I didn't want him to have to wait this whole time where I'm like taking the tram. And then when I got to my next phase, he said, okay, I think from what I can tell from the signs, when you get off the tram, your gate's going to be like 4 down from the right. And so when I got there, it was a little bit different than what he had thought. And so then I called another volunteer. And it was interesting because I ended up probably in the scope of my whole travels, probably connecting to, maybe because I had different legs of my journey, 5 or 6 different volunteers. And I would say like half of them were really good, and half of them, there were a couple who did something really like interesting, and it really bugged me. And
okay. Yeah. So for people who want to use this service or people who want to volunteer with this service, do tell, like, what are the things that bugged you, first of all, and then what were the things that were really helpful?
This is a really weird, interesting thing that I could not, and this is when like the whole independence, interdependence, because as I was like flying through the airport feeling like, oh my gosh, I've never like, besides when I'm with my guide dog who's now retired, but your guide dog can like move really fast, but doesn't know where to go unless you tell your dog where to go. So this was a very unique experience in that I was moving pretty quickly. And somebody was able to tell me exactly where to go. They were literally able to be my eyes. It was cool. So I felt this like very like interdependence. So not independence, but interdependence. So it was like we were working together. But then when I ended up talking to a couple of the different volunteers, it was like they were so nervous themselves. I didn't feel like they were in it with me. They actually, a couple of them said, they would see someone through my glasses, like who was maybe a airport official or had a vest on, and they would be, "Excuse me, sir, can you help her? Excuse me," like and
like they thought that they would be able to hear.
yes.
That is hilarious.
So I was like, I can only hear you. Like they can't hear you. And they're like, oh, okay. But they were like desperate to get someone else to help me. Like they weren't in it with me. They were like, oh my gosh.
And it was two different people that did that.
Two different people.
Out of the small handful of people you talked to, two different people tried to get passerbyers to assist you and without asking you first.
Yeah,
I mean, it was
totally. Going over.
Please help her.
Right, right. Which was very like, in a way, triggering from past things that have happened where like, can you help Joy do it? Can you help her? People talking about me in third person.
Pet peeve.
Yes, huge pet peeve. Also, if you've done that before, like there's no shame in this because it's like we're all learning and
this is a space of grace, and we are going to have a lot of grace for people who
have helped in ways that are annoying or triggering and activating. And we're going to call it out. We're just going to say that stuff. So it's going to be both here. We're all learning. We're all growing.
Exactly. So it was very interesting of like, okay, it was really helping me realize the ways that feel good to be helped and the ways that or feel empowering, I should say, and the ways that feel very disempowering. I would say that the people who helped me in very empowering ways, they were just in it. They were like, okay, we're going to figure this out. Like they were like looking at the signs, but they weren't overly like, oh, you better out of that. They were just like, no, let's do this. Whereas the other ones who I felt not so sure, maybe they were just nervous themselves about their own ability to like give instructions.
Yes.
Because that would be, you're trying to help someone. And
so you're sensing some more like fear and anxiety from the people who were not in it with you.
Yeah. And I felt this sense of like, oh, they want me to just be dependent. They would feel so much better if I would just get in a wheelchair or if somebody would just grab my hand and take me somewhere. And I think that's even with working with certain like airport officials, that's how I end up feeling too. Or there's certain ones like, hey, do you want to follow me? Or do you want to take my elbow? Versus people who are like, here, let me take your hand. Let me drag you. Or don't even say, let me take it. Like they literally just grab you. And it feels so like,
it's very objectifying. Like you're no longer your own person. Right. You're just like this object that needs to be moved around and steered. And it's really for their own contentment. It's about them, not about you.
And that's why the same thing when like a family member or any friend or anybody has ever said like, oh, can you help her? Can you take her to that thing that you all of a sudden you don't feel like a person. You feel like an object that's being talked about and needs to be handled. So it was probably one of the coolest experiences as far as interdependence. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm literally wearing these glasses. This person who I don't know what state, where they're in is like helping me. We're doing this together. And then I made it. I made it to my gate. And then from my gate, there was a little restaurant right next door. And I don't think I've ever eaten, at least in a very, very long time, at a restaurant by myself, ordered by myself, paid, done all of those things. And my meta glasses, I was able to then not with Be My Eyes, but just with the regular meta glasses, like read the menu, order what I wanted, leave when I want, pay when I want. It felt like really incredible.
Really freeing. I mean, it's like what a lot of people take for granted, right? I think a lot of people who have full access to all of their senses, it's just like, you just go to the airport, you find your gate, you grab a bite, you're not talking about it. And also, Joy,
I'm so inspired by this. I'm really, I'm just kidding. We also
So
don't want it
amazing,
to,
so
this is, yeah, it's
amazing.
so amazing. This is not so amazing. I mean, this is cool that this technology exists and that you were able to use your skills combined with these different apps and technology, and you're able to do it. It's not, it doesn't have to be something that we're getting an award for or putting on the 10 o'clock news. We are talking about it because it's unique and
Yeah.
it helps to process.
But we're not heading into like when the reason that Jenelle was saying you're so inspiring and in a fake voice is because that can feel very fake and like what is it called? People are calling it like inspiration porn, I think, when it's people put these like very inspiring, amazing videos of blind people or any person with a disability. And again, that can be objectifying too, because it's just a different way of doing things. Again, it's unique, but it's not like that person is amazing. It would be like somebody saying to somebody who is, sighted, who learns how to, I don't know, crochet in a different way. Like you are so amazing. I can't believe you learned how to do that thing. Well, it's a skill that they learned how to do. And
Right,
maybe they're
right.
talented at it. Maybe that gets a good pat on the back. Like, you're awesome, but like not
Doesn't need an abundance of praise.
exactly. So yeah, I guess, I mean, one of the things though, it's good to like process out loud just the whole feeling of independence versus interdependence. But I think one of the other things that I had mentioned to you at 10:30 last night when I'm like, let's record this podcast, is like wanting to process then some of the things that happen after.
Yeah. Let's move into that. First, I do want to ask a little clarifying question about independence and interdependence, just for people who don't know. Like, wait, how would you describe independence versus interdependence?
So I think in our culture, for me, I think it really feels like we really stress like, oh, it's so good to be independent. I am an independent person and I do things on my own by myself. And I think that we were made to be in connection and that that no one is self-made and that we all like need connection as like a very base human need. And so I think the idea of anybody doing something totally alone already feels off to me. But then especially I think it became this thing in many communities, but even in the disability community of like, blindness, my disability doesn't define me and I am an independent, I can do whatever I want when I want. Well, that's also not really reality. I mean, if because of the world that we live in and because things are set up the way that they are, we're going to need some assistance. But it also doesn't mean necessarily dependence. And I don't think also dependence is a bad thing. I think sometimes we do have to depend on one another, but I don't think it's always the way that we think. I don't think it's always the person with a disability. Like sometimes my husband depends on me for certain things that I provide. And so I think that it's both. Where like interdependence to me is working together and helping one another out. There's even been times I've been in airports lately and things where I don't actually feel like I need the help, but I'm feeling like the person helping me is really wanting to help, and they almost need that to like help their day because they want to be so helpful. And I'm like, gosh, I don't need all that they're providing, but I'm like, but I'm thinking it's making them feel good, so I'm just gonna let them do their little thing.
Yeah. So sometimes you're actually providing them with just this opportunity to feel needed or to feel helpful.
Yeah, I think that times.
Yeah. Well, and I really like what you're saying about it being kind of a fallacy that anyone is independent, right? Even the concept of traveling independently. I mean, someone else is flying that airplane, right? So
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Someone else is usually driving you to the airport or you're taking public transit. I mean, all human beings are traveling interdependently to some degree.
Yeah, and that pilot is depending on the air traffic controller, right? So
Right.
it's like they're not even doing it totally independently. So it's the interdependence, but there's a felt sense. Like interdependence feels connective. Dependence, a lot of times, and again, the way that sometimes it can interactions being pulled, pushed, without your permission, objectified, those can feel very disempowering. And there's not that we can't, when that happens, sometimes that's out of our control. And there's ways I think we can reframe those situations even, and they can feel a little bit better, and we can kind of step back into our agency. But I also think that it's just kind of all part of it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, can you give it just a brief example of ways that you've done some of that reframing along your travels when it comes to this
Yes.
idea?
So before the trip 2 weeks ago where I didn't use my meta glasses, just for a variety of reasons, but I think they weren't connected or something. Anyways, I had a few experiences where it was really overboard, and I felt like, oh my gosh, everybody's like doting on me, like in a way that felt kind of like just too much. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to pretend that I'm like a rich and famous person who's getting the VIP treatment, and who is like, and when I was like reframing it, like, oh wow, because the flight attendant, they come up and they're like talking to you if you need anything, and da da da, which is nice. I mean, in a way, they're
Right.
literally like asking if you need anything. One of them wanted to know my plan if there was an emergency and what I would want to do, and I was like, I don't know. I guess we would just figure it out. And she's like, well, no, I really need your plan. I need to write it down. I'm like, okay, that was the only flight that had happened. But I was like, I guess I'm just so taken care of, and I'm so important that they need to, I don't know. It just kind of made me laugh. And I was able to, when I shifted it into like, oh, I'm a VIP, like I must have paid for like the VIP treatment all day today at the airport. It kind of shifted me into that instead of like the story I was telling myself possibly that was making me feel like, oh, everybody's like thinking that I'm this person who can't handle things and that needs help and that I can't do anything on my own, and they're babying me. Like that is a very disempowering story
Yes.
versus one of like, okay, I'm going to shift this into like, wow, I'm being so watched out for and cared for today.
Yeah, and I would imagine that like shifts your energy, or like just your sense of self when you're able to find that lightness and even that humor of like, here I come, I'm the movie star. Nicole Kidman is on the airplane. Everyone's checking with her to make sure she has what she needs.
Yeah.
It's kind of a glimpse into what it's maybe like to get that special treatment. And the reframe allows you to feel like a little bit more light about it or empowered.
Yeah. And so then, I mean, I not only felt better in my body, but because of that, then I had better interactions, because instead of me giving like, somebody the death stare or feeling like this very irritable, like, no, I'm good. I was able to just be like lighthearted. And then of course, then they're lighthearted back. And it just kind of increases that connectivity and interaction. And then my ability to feel good for the most part. But I mean, I still think that there was kind of that level of, me feeling on, when you're traveling in general.
When you're doing anything in front of other people for an extended period of time where you feel watched or on display, it is really intense and maybe need a break. So tell us a little bit about how that was and how you were able to wind down from your day of travel.
Okay, so because there were some flight delays and things like that, I didn't get to my hotel until late. I think it was, by the time I checked in and did all the different things, it was like 11 o'clock maybe, where I was in my hotel room, and I kind of took a sigh of relief in a way, but I also still felt on, because then my hotel room felt hot and like muggy, but I didn't, of course, things are not good. You're not going to walk in a room and have it be accessible. So there's the air conditioner. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what any of these buttons say. I don't know what they are. My glasses were out of batteries by that point, so I had to charge them, and I just wanted to go to bed, but I wanted to go to bed with some air conditioning on. So I FaceTimed my husband, and I was like, holding the camera up to the air conditioning wall. And I was like, hey, I need help reading these buttons. And I was thinking, like, I talked to him earlier from the restaurant, and he was probably thinking, oh, she's doing great. She sounds so happy, da, da, da. And I was still thinking I was doing pretty good at this point. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, well, don't press that button. Oh, whatever you do, don't press the button to the left. And I mean, maybe it was sounding bossier in my head than he was actually. If anybody knows my husband, like, he's
Opposite of bossy.
Yeah, exactly. But all of a sudden he was, like giving me all these instructions that hold the camera, no, hold it down there. Right. No, up there. Oh, no, not that button. Oh, but that's Celsius. Okay. Fahrenheit. And it was like a lot of back and forth, and it was a lot of, and all of a sudden, like, it snapped. I'm almost embarrassed. I don't know if I want to say what I actually said.
Ooh, say it.
I don't know. I'm embarrassed.
Can you spell it?
I could, well, the F word.
Fart.
Yeah, we'll go with that one.
Okay.
I basically was like, I also like blurted out, like, I can press whatever effing button I want to press, but I didn't say effing.
Oh, you said the real thing.
I said the real thing. And I totally snapped. And I was just like, I said, nobody can tell me what buttons I can press or not press. And I was like, all of a sudden, like, this very mad, irritated, like, I felt a little bit like a monster. And like at my husband, who was trying to help me.
Yeah. Now I have a quick side note question about this. Would you have said the same thing if it was someone on Be My Eyes helping you?
Probably not. No, I would.
So Ben got some special treatment in that moment.
He did. He got the VIP treatment.
Yeah. Well, yeah. As we try to process that, what do you think was going on there?
I mean, okay, I had been reading this book called Raising Kids with Big Baffling Behaviors. I was mostly
love it. Robin Gobble.
Yeah, it's Robin
Such
Gobble.
a good book.
It was mostly like for work, because I work with students or families and giving families advice on and anything from reading to math to behavior. A lot of the families I work with have some behavior challenges. And so I was like, oh, this is going to be a great book. And so in the book, this author is Robin Gobble was talking about your owl brain, which is like your thinking brain. And then she was talking about your possum brain, which is kind of like the shutdown version, when you kind of like, the freeze, flight, freeze. Oh my gosh.
Fight, flight, freeze, fawn.
Yeah.
Lots of F words, not the one you said to Ben.
Yes, exactly. So that's the possum. And then the fight is like that watchdog. And so all of a sudden, after I totally snapped at him, I mean, probably for a minute or two. And I mean, I literally felt like a kid who had a tantrum. And then I was like, afterwards, feeling, of course, terrible. But immediately what kind of came to mind, because I had just been listening to this book, was, oh my gosh, my watchdog went into attack dog. I didn't even realize my watchdog was on. How long has my watchdog been on?
Yeah. And what is your sense of how long your watchdog may have been on?
I think maybe the whole day, like the whole trip.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, and for those of you who are familiar with like polyvagal theory, or a lot of ways that the nervous system works, it's that like sympathetic, like fight, flight response when we're really activated, when the amygdala is taking over, when we don't have access to our executive functioning skills, to our prefrontal cortex. Sorry, I'm a therapist, so I'm going to just spewing out all the words.
My eyes are not glazing over. I'm
not at all
interested.
Yeah, I had to show off for a minute. So
yeah, I liked it.
I'm going to take a bow.
I'm impressed.
Yeah. So you were feeling that like sense of like heightened activation, maybe all day to some degree. And yet your like maybe calm owl brain was kind of getting you through the day. But that watchdog was like, let me out of this cage.
Yes.
And just felt that perfect opportunity when in that close relationship with Ben to just start barking the F word.
Yeah, apparently. I thought I had it so together and that it went so well. So that was a little shocking to me. And so I was like, gosh, I want to process this. And because I'm going to have to travel more. I'm going to have to do uncomfortable things. And I don't want to like turn into this monster every time at the end of that. Is there a way that I could do that again where maybe I wouldn't have to turn into a attack dog?
That's a great question. What's your sense of that?
Is that a therapist thing to do? Just bring it back to me. I was asking you. You were supposed to tell me the answer, Jenelle. Jeez.
I have everything but the answers. It's just the one thing I don't have is the answers. So
I think that, I don't know, maybe I think what I needed was just to go to bed. I was tired. It was a long day. I had been on all day. So I'm just trying to think of how, if I could do it again, what I would do. Maybe I would just wait for the glasses to charge and try to use those to read it instead. I don't know.
Yeah, you needed to not be messing with the forking air conditioning or the, right? Like that's a reference to The Good Place. I don't know if anyone remembers when she was Kristen Bell, couldn't say the F word. Anytime she tried to say it, it just came out as fork.
Yes. So yeah, maybe I would, you know, I don't know, but I wanted that air conditioning. I needed that to sleep. So maybe I would have found a different way. Or I guess I could have, is there anything I could have done, do you think, before making that phone call that would have like helped my body to turn the watchdog off?
Right. Or maybe it's just as soon as you got to your hotel room. I mean, there's so many different ways to decompress and to reduce stress. So for some people, it's movement, it's breath work. Everyone has something different that works for them. I know you pretty well by now after many moons together. I know that for you, movement is really important. And so something that gets you out of your head, because you spend a lot of time in your head.
Oh, I do.
So anything that could get you into your body. So I don't know if the hotel has a swimming pool. That's maybe too complicated, but maybe it's like some breath of joy
we're doing right before this episode. Yeah. Something to kind of get myself regulated before jumping on that phone call. But also I think the thing that bothered me was my lack of awareness that I was that close to snapping. Like it literally felt like, oh, I'm fine. And then I'm snapping. Like that is such a bad feeling.
It is a bad feeling. And it's really pretty common. I think it's part of the human experience. We all have times where we are less aware of how activated we're feeling, especially when we're tired and we've traveled all day and we've navigated a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I think and fortunately I have a husband who is very gracious and forgiving, and he got it. But yeah, I think it just feels good to like process through, oh my gosh, there was all these travels and these different layers of things that happened, and to be able to process that out loud. I think of I was a sociology major in college for undergrad, and it just human behavior and why people do the things that they do, especially in response to their environment, is fascinating to me.
So what's next?
So I was thinking that it could be helpful for other people to have these conversations, and for us to maybe help bring language to common experiences or help people process through some of their own stories.
Yeah, I love that. Let's invite people to do that. So we have a DoubleVision Podcast phone number that you can call. That's 949-414-8336. Joy's going to repeat that now.
That is 949-414-8336. And you could call and just leave a message on that line with, if you have a question, if you have a story. You might want to say at the end of it, and we could always edit that out if it's okay if we were to play the clip on our podcast, or if it's not okay, we can just paraphrase in our words, because we want you still to be able to call even if you don't want your voice on it. And then you also could just send an email, and that is just mail@doublevisionblog.com. That's again mail@doublevisionblog.com. So you could email or you could call, and I think we'll probably process, well, maybe next time I'll help you process a story or you help me, back and forth. And then if we end up having people who either we end up inviting as guests or that we share their stories, then we'll kind of take it from there. This is going to be an experiment, so it's kind of going to unfold as it does.
Yeah, I'm excited to do this experiment with you in the podcast world and in life. So glad that we were not just one big baby, but rather two surprise babies, much to our mother's dismay. Sorry, Judy.